right, guys, we are back for the final installment of Building a Better Disc Detainer Pick. Standing beside me is a lock-picking lawyer, Harry.
Thank
How
you
you
very
doing?
much for having me. I'm doing great. Glad to be wrapping this up.
So am I. It's been a long 2 weeks, hasn't it?
It has. It's been some time since the last video. We've been doing some testing and
Well, and you see some of our test subjects lying here in front of you. We'll go over a couple of them here in a minute.
absolutely.
All right, I know not everybody has watched all previous 5 segments. So you want to talk a little bit about the background, about why we did this and what our goal is?
Sure. I think that's really important because this is we think it's a really good pick, but it has to be viewed in the context of what's out there right now. And what we have is this really inexpensive Chinese disc detainer pick that unfortunately needs a ton of modification before you can even hope to use it in a
Yeah,
lock.
it's still not going to give you quite what you need.
Yep, you've got this. But then on the other end of the spectrum, we have some super high-end picks that are costing hundreds of dollars that
More than I have to throw away.
that's the problem, is they're really outside of the reach of most hobbyists.
Hobbyists. And that's
Yeah.
what I think most of us are.
And there's a couple really good ones out there. Yako makes a great one.
I've had one of his. They are great picks.
Then
Huxley
Matt,
Pig.
yeah, Matt, he makes a very nice
And
one.
he's been doing this for a very long time. He's done a
He's
lot of research.
probably one of the best research, most knowledgeable people, I'll say, as
Absolutely.
far
No-
as disc detainer
No
locks
question.
go.
No question.
And he has a great product called the Silver Bullet that the last time I looked, when we started this project, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 plus. But I've since learned about a new project where someone with CNC machining is going to try to make them for a much lower price point.
And CNC machining will increase the speed at which you can do it. They're no longer going to be hand built.
And the automation is really going to,
Save time, save money.
yep. But still, it's at $250, I think, and up depending on options,
Yeah.
which is still a little bit on the expensive
That's
side.
not our target market here.
No. We've got basically $10 on this side and $250 on the other
We want to
side.
squeeze in the middle, closer to this than to that, right?
Much closer.
Okay.
Much closer. We think there's a really wide open gap in that market there that really hasn't been filled. And as we were talking, unbeknownst to each other, we have both reached out to lockpick companies
Yes.
independently and asked them to fill that gap in the market.
But we never had anything to show them other than some obscure idea that we described.
Yeah, we never got any luck at all. We both were told that this was a narrow niche market. No one's going to buy this stuff. We can't make a profit. Sorry.
And independently, we didn't really think it through. But together, I think we've come up with some pretty unique ideas.
I think so. And we've actually, in the course of doing this project, we reached out to some lockpick companies again. We got a little bit of interest.
Let's
but
talk about that later, though.
let's do that.
Let's talk
do
about
that.
our pick.
Okay, well, there's a lot to talk about here because things have been happening in the last couple weeks. This is the first prototype we made, and we tested it, and we found it wanting in a couple of ways.
Yes, we did.
The first one, it was a suggestion that you had, and it had to do with the replaceable tips that I thought we probably should put on it. But you are a practical man, and you realized there was a problem with that.
Well, I knew at some point we wanted to keep the cost down and the ease on us in terms of making it. So on this replaceable nose, I got to thinking, and this is the engineer in me coming out. Let's say I want to pick a lock that needs the short tip, and we made some of them. And in order to replace a tip, I've got to take out these 2 screws, got to take the cap off, remove the wire, loosen these, pull the nose out, put the new nose back on there, and then reassemble everything. That's a lot of moving parts and a lot of time.
It was cumbersome.
So wouldn't it be cool not to have to do any of that stuff?
It would be very cool.
And so we looked at
However
this.
could you figure out to do such a thing?
Yeah. This shaft is a little thicker than that one, and the idea was we'd counterbore this hole a little bit deeper down this shaft so that the nose would slide into it. We'd no longer have a journal.
So should we show them the result?
I think we should. There we go, right there. Version 2.
Okay, here is the next version. And right away, you guys can see that we don't have that thick journal. What we have is a long, thin shaft.
And this thing is slick. Check it out.
And it is really, really easy. You can loosen these handles up a little bit, slide it out
Telescope it. Yeah.
to the point. You can actually take it out a little bit past 20 millimeters.
Yeah.
I think 21 or 22.
More than you need for
and
any of the
still
locks.
have enough play in this to pick a full disc detainer lock.
I think we gave this away because when we were showing the machining operation of the nose, we actually showed the machining of this nose as opposed to the journaled one.
Yeah.
Some of the sharp viewers caught that.
A couple people caught us on that. That's the nature of YouTube.
Think of it as a preview, a bonus. How
It
about
was. It was.
that? All right, so we played with this and we went back and forth. We learned a little bit more.
There was another change, something I noticed actually while picking on this lock. It's a Gerda, and it's a higher end disc detainer lock, but it has false gates in it.
Yes, it does.
And one of the ways in which a picker can tell the difference between false gates and true gates is the width of the gate. And it's sometimes really hard to determine the width just by feel. You need some sort of visual reference. And that's where our second change came into play.
And this is a perfect example of doing something in collaboration with somebody who thinks things all the way through.
Well, we didn't do that from the beginning, but we're getting there. So what we did was we took the idea of these graduations and decided instead of crossing the axis of the pick, we'd do some new graduations that were parallel to the axis of the tip in addition. Then we added that little tick mark on the knob, so you could use that to judge just how wide the gates are. And it works surprisingly well.
Not for decoding, though. Right?
No, it's definitely not for decoding. Though, as we said, this is something for hobbyists. And most of the time, a hobbyist doesn't have a whole lot of use to be decoding a lock, I don't think.
That's true.
So these marks are more than sufficient for just giving yourself a visual reference. We decided against decoding marks. We were thinking about it. There's just so many different disc angles out there. It would have been cumbersome. We'd end up averaging things. For a hobbyist,
Too many
I think this
compromises.
is probably the better solution.
I agree. All I really need to do is be able to determine, is it the real gate or false gate? And the width is really the best way to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we took this one, version 3, and we played with it for probably about a week.
Yep.
Almost a week. We tried it in a wide variety of locks. Let me back up just to give you guys a little bit of an idea. Everything you see there, we've picked it with version 3. And I got to tell you, those graduations really do help out.
I agree.
So at the end of the week, we really couldn't think of any more improvements in terms of design.
Well, I wanted to be able to fit this in my pick case.
Yeah.
And that means making it considerably thinner. But unfortunately, we just don't have the strength to do that when we make it out of brass.
Well, we chose brass for a reason. It's easier for us to do prototyping on. It goes pretty quickly. It cleans up pretty nice. But the other disadvantage of brass is that it's soft. So if you drop it, it's going to bend. And it's going to oxidize a little bit at given time.
It is. You can actually see as we go along here, duller to brighter.
So what's the answer
amount of time? Stainless steel's the answer.
Would that be the guy we're talking about right? Let me get him centered here. Can we move those over a little bit?
Let's move them out of the way.
Yeah, because this is the final version right here.
Yep. So let's take a look at this one. Here we have all of the innovations that we talked about before. And because it's made out of a much stronger material, we were able to thin this down considerably to the point where I could actually put this in the pocket of my Sparrow's case, which this is what I use all the time. It's got a ton of room in it.
You can take the tensioners off, but move it over a little bit.
Yep.
You really don't have
probably
to.
fit it in.
It'll fit right in all completely intact.
Yep. So
pretty cool.
This was the last one we made, and I think we're pretty happy with it right now.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. Couldn't be happier. Let me put it that way. So there you go, guys. Version 1 through version 4.
So let's start manufacturing these, right?
Well, let's talk about that. The prototype took us what? About 20 man-hours. Now remember, guys, both LPL and I have manual machinery, manual milling machines, manual lathes, no CNC, because we can't afford it.
And manual drinking apparatus.
That's true. That did interfere a little bit. So the prototype took us about 20 hours as we learned all the angles, the sequence of cutting, what tools to use, and all of that. For all the subsequent ones, it took us, I'm going to average about 8 hours per improvement
We
per
learned
version.
a lot each time going through. It sped up easily 8 hours by the
Okay,
end.
so by the time we got to 8 hours, you can see that's it's still a custom item.
It took a while.
The only way to economically manufacture these things in mass at a reasonable price is
We need to mass produce it
CNCing. Yeah,
or get someone else to do it
get
for
someone else to
us.
do it for us. Oh, you could do a Kickstarter. You want to do one of those?
I have no desire to be a pick
I'm
manufacturer.
like you. I'm a lock picker. I am not a businessman.
So, we told you before we started reaching out to lockpick companies again, and it was right at this stage, in between prototype 1 and 2. Once we had something tangible in our hands, we decided to show it to them and see if we could entice them to evaluate whether this was something that could be mass produced. And we got one nibble, and it was from Sparrows. This is not a commitment to produce them, but to evaluate it and see if it can be produced at a low price point. What are you doing, Bill?
That's the Sparrows logo.
Oh, geez, you're turning into a Sparrows product. Every Sparrows product needs a skull or something
It's
on
got
it.
something creepy.
So what we're going to be doing is we're sending our final prototype out to Sparrows for evaluation to see if they can make it at a low price point that would justify this for a hobbyist.
And if they do,
Then we give it to them.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's
agree.
theirs. We're not asking for any money from this. We're not asking for anything other than.
produce it at a decently low price that we can all afford it.
And what do you mean by low price?
I mean, I'm thinking 50, 60 bucks.
I think that makes sense because these are a little bit complicated to make, but we think it can be done cheap. And if it is, we will be really happy that this gap in the market is
Well,
being
I'm
filled.
pretty sure they would. I mean, skull aside, some of the contributions here are every piece on this is replaceable. So if something gets damaged, it can be easily replaced. But even more importantly, they're all manufactured independently. So there's nothing complicated about any single piece here.
I
So
don't
they
think
should be able
so.
to CNC these things fairly easily.
Which reminds me, another benefit to the end user is that all of these parts are separate. So if you determine that you need a different style tip, well, you can make a new tip and drop it in. If you
30
need a different tensioning nose,
30-second job.
same thing. You
Yeah.
can do that. This is something unlike this Chinese detainer pick where we had absolutely no options for changing that nose.
Yeah, you buy another one.
or-
That's what you do.
Yeah,
And
there's
you're still
really
stuck with the same old junk.
not user modifiable, at least not to the extent where it would turn into a usable tool.
I agree. All right, guys, there you go. That is version 6, or actually version 4, the 6th episode of Making a Better Disc Detainer Pick with the lock-picking lawyer. Guys, we really, hey, I got one more idea. What do you think about another collaborative video?
I'm up for something. What do you have in mind?
Well, let's leave it up to our viewers.
Okay.
Guys, I'll tell you what. If you got ideas for things you'd like to see Lockpicking Lawyer and I collaborate on, right down there. Leave it in the comments, and we'll screen them and pick out a couple of good ones. Because I really enjoy working with Harry here.
I enjoyed the drinking part too.
Oh, thank you. All right, guys, as always, please let us know what you think. Give us a like if you like the video, and we'll know we can hopefully make a few more of these things.
One more thing I want to say before we get to the end.
Yeah?
Sparrows. Don't be calling them right away.
Oh, yeah.
We need to mention this because I'm sure as soon as we mention that, people are going to call Sparrows.
When am I going to get it?
Where is it? Where? It is not certain they're going to make it or they'll be able to make it at the price point. And even if they do, we're talking October, November, maybe later at the earliest.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm getting a lot of requests from people for the plans of this. They want to make them. And I don't think we want to release the plans
Let's
just randomly.
see if Sparrows is going to make it first.
Let's be fair with Sparrows. Give them every opportunity to do a good cost estimate and come back and decide if they want to do it or not.
Mm-hmm.
If they do it, then we're just going to give it to them. If they don't do it, they say we can't do it, then we'll release the plans. I'll put them on the LockLab website on the free download section, and then we'll just release them to the world. Anybody can make this thing.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Go ahead and subscribe. Let us know and hit that notification bell so when we post another video, you'll be one of the first to know about it. Harry, thank you, sir.
I think we got a problem, though.
Yes, we do. And then we were arguing. I want all 4. I don't want just one.
All 4 of them.
I want all of them.
I don't think the people on YouTube can picture the nasty look on my face right
Oh,
now.
I think they can, but
yeah?
I
We need a way to solve this.
okay, some of the suggestions, one of them that we can do is thumb wrestle.
Thumb wrestle?
Thumb wrestle.
I'm gonna kick your butt.
I sure
do
will.
it.
Get this stuff out of the way here. Get it out of the way. You get
Okay.
down here. You ready?
Hold on. There we go.
There
Okay.
we-
1, 2,
2,
3, 4. I declare a thumb war.